like, because I know what went on in the background of like how limited and how last minute. Jesus, Brent, seriously?
A lot of people know, for sure.
Let's talk about that, the sprint couple with the sled,
Yeah.
because that's been a topic of conversation. Some people have put together numbers that suggest that the outside lanes did have a little bit of an advantage. What's wrong with saying, yeah, maybe that happened, but at the end of the day, it is on the athletes to perform regardless of what conditions or problems they're dealing with?
Because that data those guys put together is junk. And here's why it's junk. That data would only be valid in this regard if the event was a down, done, or a down and back of just one modality, the sled.
Okay.
What that data that they put together takes into zero account, it takes total time and finish. But there was a minute, almost a minute, not a minute, about 50 seconds of work in the middle of this event. You leave the sled, you leave this sled, you have a transition period, you go to the bar and you do muscle ups, and then you come back. Now, interestingly, those muscle ups were, even in programming, when I made this test, I said, this is a test of muscle ups. And if you look at the footage, that was a test of cycle speed and transition on the muscle ups. The guy who won, McLeod, and Olsen, when you look at their speed on the muscle ups, they were cranking them out. That guy's data, here's where that data could be more legit, is if you took it from the very first sled, from the start and to when each athlete crossed the line, because that right there is a representation of just a pure sled effort, and the variance, will say, in the field. But the way he did it is so misleading for this narrative. It creates this narrative of lanes having an advantage. No, it wasn't the fucking lane. It was those guys, their work on the muscle ups. And it was interesting, Matt and I were going back and forth last night. And Matt says, well, everybody did the muscle ups unbroken. I go, that doesn't matter. Everyone did do them unbroken, but with much different tempo and speed. Some people can do 18 muscle ups unbroken faster than others, and also then in the transition just between the, I consider 2 points of transition. Off the sled to the bar is one. And if you look, I'll show you soon. If you look, Noah was fucking on it.
Right.
He was just on the bar right away, and he was cranking, and then he was off the bar right away. Those little things add up. And here's what I mean. I got it pulled up. Here's what I mean by, this is the type of thing he should measure and graph out. So, boom, go. Okay, so that guy had a hiccup. Look, there's some variance here, there for sure is. Dude, what? That's natural athletic variance. In any race, there's gonna be some variance. Watch, there's some guys in the middle, in the front too. How about you graph out, let's stop here. How about you graph out this finish, because that's the only thing when conditions were completely the same on the sled. And interestingly, at this moment, everybody comes in a couple seconds relative to each other. Everybody at this stage, unless maybe it's just one directional, that the issue was. Maybe the field was skewed one directional, but hear me out. At this stage, everyone crosses within a couple of seconds. The difference on this event,
For every line they pass with that sled.
so 21 seconds, everyone's across, some people are already working, and this is what it came down to. Now watch, and here's a guy on the left who was on a good lane who was really far behind.
Ryan Sauter.
You can even just look in here, you can see difference in speed in cycling. So now, is this first? Yeah, McLeod's gonna get out first, and he's gonna have a significant lead on his sled before even anybody gets off. And again, that's not because of the conditions of the field at this point. They all came in within a second or two of each other from that first sled. That's because of the work he puts in here. And I contend everyone who's saying I actually texted Noah this last night. Everyone who's saying that there's sections that were good, you're fucking shitting on these guys who did great. You're shitting on McLeod and you're shitting on Olsen, because those guys put in some serious work and a great effort.
Yeah.
So play this out.
This was his break from the sled.
He's got a nice lead.
Anybody comes down to break here, you got to think if you're going to win this event or even have a chance of finishing inside
good.
the top 10.
Yeah.
So shut this guy up.
And here we go. Watch, he's off and he's on. He spins.
Outdueled Mat Fraser in one of the couple events, and
And
now
at this
the first
stage,
athletes are off.
these middle guys, they're not, a lot of them, some couple aren't even on the sled.
Yeah.
And he's out. And what he has an athlete advantage in terms of being in front, and he's gonna really fucking push his ass off. These guys, they're moving too. But you know what? They just started a lot further behind than he did. And when you're this guy, you know what else? You see everyone in front of you. And what do you do at that point? You're not moving like some of these other guys. You're just kind of like, well, I'm still in it, but I'm not going to win.
Well, some of the people who are voice concerned, I would consider them whiners, or people who traditionally bitch about where they finish.
I'm almost saying this more for the fans, too.
Where is that perception coming from? Is it purely fan-driven?
No, it's coming from athletes, too, because athletes have said some of this stuff. Interestingly, I said this in my post, as soon as this event was over and I went in to brief the next one, I heard a couple guys starting insinuating that the surface was different, and I was blown away by it. And I was like, no, how could none of this? We tested, and this is another test. We tested a lot.
Uh-huh. Well, I think there's a few things, and I think this goes to the whole like favorites not making the top 10, and this as well is we build these expectations typically based off performance, right? Some of these fan favorites become fan favorites because they're in the top 10, because as a result of their exposure in the top 10, we get to see their personality, things like that. And in the same regard, we're used to seeing, and we see it played out in gyms and multiple different surfaces. Certain athletes should be able to push a sled way better than other athletes.
Should be able to. You can make that assumption because they're your favorite, and not yours.
Well, no,
because your favorite in a big name. But guess what, guys? And I've always said, Mat Fraser's hard work pays off. It's great. It's a great thing. But guess what? He's not the only guy who works hard and puts a lot of time in. And the most popular and famous people aren't the only ones who work hard and put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these other guys, like McLeod. Hey, so McLeod finished this event in first. He finished what in the games? 8.
Yeah.
I think it was 8. Noah finished second in this event. He finished what in the games? Second. I think Will Murad was third in this event.
Yeah.
Top 10. So even those guys who were on the top of this event, but there's other variables in this one too. I want to show you something.
Well, one thing I want to bring up before we finish looking at this is, and I'd heard rumblings of it before, but it was apparent in a couple of shots in the Fittest that I saw it more frequently, is those fans. The fans that were pumping moisture out onto the field. And there were a couple of shots.
There's nothing there. And here's why. I'm going to show you. Here's why there's nothing there. Because again, it fundamentally goes to this. This first push tells the entire story. Someone said, well, I was pushing much harder and he had an easier push. These fucking guys are all so good. If you were pushing much harder but still maintaining the speed of everyone else, that's not the case. If it was much easier, they'd be way in front. Now there's going to be one person here, interestingly too, Noah was wearing cleats, which might have been a huge advantage.
I did see that, yeah.
Where others were not. Matt wasn't wearing cleats. And then there's another factor taken in here where,
Okay, if I drop off the bar, I'm losing points. Now, if I drop off the bar, I might not
he's a big
stay
dude.
in the
You'll
top
see in a
10.
second. He just had a really high position and he might have maximized, he might have found the sweet spot where it lessened the load on the sled and kind of gained some mechanical advantage, but that had nothing to do with the surface watch. You'll see in a second. And even him doing that, it wasn't like he was further, but no more than what would be the accepted norms. In an event like this, there's going to be separation. And let's watch this.
Is inside the top 10. He's hoping to continue his
And the truth is, maybe these guys, some of these guys who didn't perform as well as everyone wants, didn't put in the sled work or and here's the thing.
A couple of people popped it off the top
right
and
there
dug it
at
right
the
to the
start.
ground.
Yeah.
Matt lost a good 2 seconds because he knows that. Now check this out. Not because of the surface, but because he hit it too high and knows that. I want you to see, he's in the back now. Matt makes up a ton of ground and he almost makes it back to the front. bear in mind, in a bad lane, in the traditional sense. So he's in the back, and look, he's starting to catch everybody. And even all of this right now. So this is guys like is that Quan?
I think so.
So look how high he's pushed. He might have found an advantage based off of his size, not even knowing.
I remember Neil Maddox on the sprint sled did the same thing, kind of picked it up. And
You
kept it
say
close.
that
Yeah.
in one of these.
Yeah.
Or someone said it. Chase might have said
Probably
it.
Chase.
Yeah.
He's the smart one.
So that is, I contend is not because of surface, that is because of mechanical advantage. He might have shoes, or he might have cleats, I don't know. Everyone else is in a pretty, very similar place, within fractions of a second.
So you would contend this is the natural variance allowed with the little nuances and stuff that go in.
This is what someone like whoever that guy is who graphed that out should graph out. He should not graph out the total time, because the total time again, so this is going to take less than 20 seconds for everyone. The second half of muscle, the muscle-ups will take about a minute, and then the push-back will vary for a lot of guys. It disregards what happens in the middle. It doesn't even take into account. You can't. And let's look here. Guys on the left, a guy on the left in the front, a guy on the left in the back. Some guys in the middle, in the front. Hey, and look, Chandler Smith, he crushes this. He's in the top 5. He'll end up being in the back. Noah, this is what's important to remember. Both of these guys do cross first, and they're gonna put some significant work in on that. And look at the ground Matt made up. He's more in the middle of the pack.
3-0 seconds.
Now watch Noah.
And I want to say at the very bottom,
He's up.
that might have been Brent
He's working.
First,
And so these guys.
first to the rig, and what
So
he did was
the
he
important
used
thing,
that
my point here,
sled push
this
technique
is
that Neil
this
at the
is
very
the data.
bottom of the
This
field right
here
now, but he's
is the only thing that's consistent to measure, to give any weight to this notion of the lane might have been a fast lane or not. And this data still might show, this is going to show these two had the fast times, but guess what? Try telling me that Noah Olson's not capable of that, or Samuel Quan. Try saying that that's just fucked up to the athlete, I believe. Well, they got lucky, they were in a fast lane. No, how about they're that good? And again, Noah's wearing cleats, which that's another
I
variable.
can't imagine that people not wearing cleats for this. Why? I just assumed everybody was.
Maybe access.
Okay.
Maybe because we didn't, shoes were on
They were,
athletes.
okay. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
He's wearing some Nike football cleats.
Yeah.
And so maybe you just had them in your bags and others didn't.
Interesting. But and it
So my contention is that guy's data is trash because it's taking into account the whole event and assigning that these lanes have fast lanes or not. The only way it would work is if this was a single modality test that was just a sled down and a sled back.
Brian.
Yeah, you're up.
Brian, you're up, man. It's interesting though because I think
He should be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed by that.
Now you're just poking.
the smile on your face tells you that you're poking the bear here. But I think it's interesting though because I feel like people will contend that in a workout where seconds make a huge difference here because of the speed of it, that even a small variance, maybe 3 to 5 second variance in the sleds. So say. And this may be tapping into a little bit too much of the looking backwards and not learning from it and going forward, because a 4 to 5 second difference, if there is a variance, say 2.5 seconds each direction, is 10 spots on the leaderboard.
But that's okay. That's the nature of a sprint event, meaning that's just part of this game. And it's just part of the sprint. If we were to just fall slave to those type of things, we wouldn't have tests like this. And tests like this are absolutely necessary. Tests where you can make a mistake, where you can nosedive.
Yeah.
This might have been Matt's lowest finish. And you know what?
Yeah. I think the actual sprint might have been, but
yeah, 15th in the actual sprint.
Yeah.
The rock was, wasn't it?
No, at 7th or 8th in the row?
17th.
okay.
17th.
Oh,
But the
17th?
sprint couplet was his worst. It was 21st.
Is this an issue if there were cuts? I mean, if there weren't cuts?
Yeah,
If you
it's
hear
not
that-
a talked about issue.
That's what I meant, yeah.
No, not at all. And again, it's not an issue if Bukowski, Vellner, Brooke, Annie didn't get cut.
Mm-hmm.
If if Noah got cut, it wouldn't be an issue. There's fan favorites. There's some people fans really like. People like Noah too, don't get me wrong. But some of these, now look, I want you to see something. When we're on Fraser now, what you don't see, and we'll pan, is Noah's already fucking 40 feet down the field. Look, and that's not because of the sled being easier to push, it's because he has a nice lead. Boom. So one of these lanes is 44 feet. So here's Noah, and here's Matt. And then here's Quant down here, so Noah's in cleats. Quant has, I think, an ideal advantage in pushing position. And even all that being said, this distance isn't going to increase that much. Matt does it again. But that also doesn't mean it was the surface. So look. They're still moving, they're still clipping out. And again, I also pretend these guys in the front have another level because like, I'm in the front, I'm gonna fucking win.
Yeah, there's a
that
drive,
leader, yeah. And that guy's data takes none of that into consideration. Now here, these guys are all still moving at a good clip. And why are they here? They're here not because of the center lanes, they're here because of what happened on the muscle-up bar. And that's how this event was designed. This event was designed that it was going to be a test of speed on the muscle-up bar, and this stuff was a distraction. It obviously did play. It obviously was a contributor. Now you look, and there's going to be some guys in the middle, in the back, and there's going to be some guys in the left and right. But at this stage, I contend there's not a loser mentality, but there's and there's Chandler who was in the front. He was in the front on the way back. Look at, here's a guy in a fast lane. Here's a guy in a fast lane. They're in the back. I contend these guys are a little less like, fuck, they see everybody, so they slow up a little more.
Yeah, the demoralization factor a little bit.
Yeah, look, some more guys.
Now that athletes have been through this whole system once,
Yes.
they didn't know what to expect in 2019. They know what to expect the next time around. What are the lessons that you expect them to learn, and not only learn, but then now apply to the next game?
Yes, exactly. The next game is the proper way to say it. Prepare for the unknown and unknowable. Take that to heart and understand you have to show up on every event. If we continue in this direction with these same cuts, with the same format, you can't have a bad event. And that, again, what is that? That's sport. And,
Sure.
and I believe heavily in that. That's part of all of this. It's necessary. It's this sport now. It's where it is right now, and that's part of it. You got to adapt to that and understand. And for the fans, they should understand, hey, guess what? Now I know going in, my superstar fucking 1.5 million follower stud athlete with a great body might not be in the top 10.
Yeah.
They need to understand that as fans.